Hey everyone, it's Steve with another episode of Keep 'em Rolling. And for today's video, I was really hoping to have footage of the great show in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and show you all my new finds. But as you may have gathered by reading the title of my previous video, the show was canceled. It was one of those unfortunate things that it was being held in the National Guard Armory, and the rule is if the National Guard needs the Armory, it trumps everything else. And there was nothing on the books, but they had a thing come up where they were doing training or a mobilization or something to that effect, and the show got canceled, unfortunately. I feel horrible for the show planners because I know it's a lot of work and then have to sit there and turn people away and, tell people it's canceled and so forth. It's just kind of a bummer. So that changes our plans a bit. So for today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recent find video. Now, the last one, I shared things that I found when I was at that big antique show. Well, that same day, that same Saturday, we had to get together of fellow collectors kind of to look over. We met at one gentleman's home that is a collector. We looked at his collection, which is always fun. We shared stories of things we found. And then he got out everything that he was going to bring to the Grand Rapids show and let us go through and kind of get first picks on the stuff he was going to put on his table, which was really cool. Now, for all of you out there who are collectors, look around for fellow collectors in your area and try and start something like this. It's really fun. We do this, there's a couple of us that get together and we do it every few months. When it strikes us, we'll, all kind of send out text messages and say, hey, you want to get together at my house in a couple weeks on a Saturday night? I'll provide pizza if you want to bring dessert and pop and so forth. Everybody brings something. People bring stuff to sell. People bring stuff for show and tell, and then you get to show off your collection. So it's really fun. So I encourage you, if you're in an area, look around, try and find people of like interest. It's hard to do, and it is a little bit of a vetting process, but once you do it, it's really rewarding. So on with what I picked up. Now, my whole focus lately has been field gear. Anytime I see field gear that's in good, solid condition, I try to grab it. And my reasoning behind it is because field gear seems to be becoming scarce. Used to be I'd go to shows and see tons of canteens, and now you don't see tons of canteens. Or I'd see tons of combat suspenders. Now you don't see tons of combat suspenders. So as I find things, I try to grab them to complete sets and so forth and so on. So what did I get? Well, we'll start off with this right here. It is a Jeep cap. It is a nice Jeep cap. It's got the correct size tag on the inside there, medium. That's all generally these caps ever had. They didn't have a manufacturing tag. I've never seen one with a, an issue tag or anything like that. Just the size tag is what you want to see. What's unusual about this one, and the gentleman who sold it to me, we kind of, we've been trying to hypothesize as to what happened to it. But when you look at the front here, this is where the visor should be. And there is no visor. It has been removed. There's thread from where the visor used to be. You can see the markings where the visor used to be sewn on. And the only thing that we can think of is that the owner of this cap decided they wanted to convert it into a beanie, if you will. They took the visor off because maybe it was getting in the way with what they were doing, and they converted it essentially into just that, a watch cap or a beanie. Either way, it's an excellent shape. It's really cool, and these are great things to display with field jackets. They're great things to put under helmets for display. It's a neat utilitarian cap that I absolutely love. So I grabbed that. And as far as prices go, what happened was he laid everything out. He said, pick what you want, make a pile, and I'll give you a price. So I'll give you the price of everything when we are all done here. So one Jeep cap minus the visor. Now, next thing I picked up a really clean, solid pair of combat suspenders. There's a little bit of issue with them. We've got a little bit of, you can see some of the staining on them there a little bit. The hardware is corroded, so they're not perfect. I wouldn't call them unissued, but they're definitely not worn out in any way, shape, or form. They're very nice. They will display very nice. They still have markings on them. They have the laundry number of the soldier on them and that. So just a nice, honest set of combat suspenders. Now, keeping with the combat gear, this is a piece that I have been wanting to acquire for quite some time. I assembled what I call my D-Day field gear collection, and I was missing the invasion or assault gas mask bag. So I was able to pick up a very nice example of the assault gas mask bag. Now, there was some debate. Once again, me and the gentleman who was selling this and a few others, we sat around and kind of talked about it. None of us really had a lot of knowledge of assault gas mask bags, and there's a lot of reproductions out there, and we thought maybe this was a reproduction. The snaps on it, you know, I thought, why would they have snaps instead of lift dots? But in my very scant research I've done since picking this up, what I've learned is that the 4 snaps are correct. That's what you want to see. You don't really want to see the lift dots. You want to see the snaps. You also want to see on here assault. And if you look, you can see it says assault there on the gas mask bag. They also talked about the colorization. If you see stuff that's super, super bright, that tends to lean more towards reproduction. The faded kind of weak US on here, that's more appropriate. There we go. More appropriate for original bags. The rubber material is it's kind of a dull, warm material, if that makes sense. I've seen a few reproduction bags, and the rubber material tends to be almost like patent leather. That's shiny, you know. And this is it's much warmer, if that makes any sense. And then one thing they said is look at the hardware. They said if the hardware shows wear, that's a good sign. And the hardware, sorry everybody, I keep looking over to the right because the light's there, and I know the camera's over here, so I apologize. The hardware on here is showing wear. There's some rust. Get that to focus in there. There's some rust. There's some corrosion. It's what I would want to see on a piece of equipment that is, you know, 75, 80 years old. One other thing they said is look for the gas mask anti-dimming stick loop. Apparently inside gas mask bags, if you open up your gas mask bags and look, there's an almost like elastic loop that was sewn in that held this little metal canister that was the anti-dimming compound. And what you do is you'd rub it on the eyepieces of the gas mask, and that would keep it from fogging or help to keep the eyepieces from fogging up. So they said look for that because reproduction bags generally don't have that because there's no reason, and it's just an added expense. It doesn't make any sense to put that in there. So when you look at this bag right here, you can see kind of that marking right here. It looks almost like a rectangle on there. That is where that loop was sewn in. And the nice thing is when I reached inside the bag to, you know, actually feel the loop, and, you know, I don't want to pull it too hard because I'm afraid I'll ruin the bag. But this was still attached to that loop. This is the actual canister of anti-dimming material. If you open it up, you can see it's like a cloth there that you would rub all over the eyepieces of the mask to keep it from fogging up. But that was still in there. So I'm almost 100% confident that this is an original assault gas mask bag. Now, when you start to say D-Day, when you say assault, when you bring this stuff up, people go crazy, and it's almost like you feel it commands all that extra money, you know. Really, these things are out there. They're not terribly expensive. If you take your time to shop around. I've never seen one in the wild, like in an antique mall, but I've seen them at the shows, and $40, $50 seems to be the going price, sometimes a little more depending on the show. If you have a chance to buy one and you really want to add one to your collection, I recommend doing it sooner rather than later because they are drying up. And just to add to this, the reason these are out there is because there were a lot of them manufactured, and apparently in some of the stories I've been reading, dealers were finding pallets of these still not too long ago, in storage and bringing them out into the public. But once again, you don't see them that often, so if you really want to add one to your collection, I would recommend doing it, well, once again, sooner rather than later. So, sticking with combat gear, the gentleman had an absolutely beautiful Model 43 field jacket. Just very, very nice. And what I really liked about this, first of all, it's got the size tag in the pocket with the date. It's washed out, but it's dated November 1943. So that is a really early date for these jackets. When you look at the cuffs are in excellent shape. They're not, frayed or worn out. The collar, same thing. When you look at the collar, it's in just absolutely beautiful shape. There's no staining or wear on the collar. The hem is also in excellent shape. So this jacket, whoever owned it, they took really good care of it. It's got the kind of light colored cotton liner on the inside, which I like to see. It's got good color to it. Still has the original waist drawstring right here. It's intact. It hasn't ripped through or anything like that. Overall, just a beautiful, unmessed with example of the 43 field jacket. And this brings me to another collecting tip, and that is, if you are looking for a field jacket for your collection, now is the time to buy it. And you got to trust me on this. There were 3 principal jackets that were used during World War II. And I know there were others like Jeep coats and the big wool overcoats and stuff. But as far as field jackets go, you had the really, really early M1938 or Parsons Jacket, as it's referred to as by collectors. Actually, the official name is just field jacket. This is the one that's like the 41, but it has flaps over the pockets. And I'll be doing a video on all of these jackets here coming up, so you'll be able to see the differences. The 40 or the 38, the Parsons jacket, it is almost impossible to find. And finding one in good shape is even more almost impossible to find. And if you do, expect to pay hundreds of dollars for that type of jacket. The 41 jacket, which is kind of the mainstay coat that you see on D-Day, you see in North Africa, every GI was wearing the 41 jacket. Those are still around, but once again, in good condition. They're becoming extremely hard to find, and the price is just going right through the roof. The 43 field jacket, the one that I have here, also a mainstay to our GIs during World War II. These are still out there. They're still fairly easy to find, and the price is hovering around that $50 to $100 range for a good jacket, but they're drying up. I mean, me personally, if I see one at a show that's a good price and in really good condition, I'm grabbing it because they're becoming scarce. So my recommendation is, if you want to add one of these jackets to your collection, do it sooner rather than later. So we bought a lot of combat gear. We bought the Jeep cap, we bought the combat suspenders, we bought the 43 field jacket, we bought the assault gas mask. I got a helmet in the previous video. What's missing from all of this? Boots. And he had a beautiful pair of double buckle boots for sale. They are in worn condition. If you look, you can see that, you know, they have been used, but they haven't been destroyed. They possess all the wonderful characteristics I like to see on the double buckle boots, and they're just in fun shape. You know, I mean, they're not, what's the word I'm looking for? Patina. They've got really good, to use that Antiques Roadshow terminology, they got really good patina. And they're a match set. See, we've got 2 of them here. Just a very, very nice set. They're the green cuff. So when you look inside here, I undid one so you guys could see, you can see that green material, and that's what you want to see. Unfortunately, I can't find a date. I found the correct size. They're 8.5. And I found the maker stamp and so forth. So they're US World War II double buckles, but I can't find the date. I don't know if it just wore off or never had it or whatever, which is too bad. Well, hey everybody, before we end here, come here, Max. Look at who has come to visit us again. It's Mr. Max, who once again comes out for the videos. So sorry if I picked you up there. All right, can you move out of the way for a second, buddy, so we can finish this up? So that is pretty much everything that I picked up from this gentleman. So the boots, the coat, the hat, the combat suspenders, the gas mask bag, and so forth and so on. And the price, and you know, I'm having a difficult time right now remembering exactly what I paid. I know it's only 2 weeks ago, and I should write this down, but I believe that for everything I paid $120, which I did not think was a terrible price for boots, the 43 field jacket, combat suspenders, gas mask bag, etc. to pay $120. And he was happy that I bought the stuff because his, kind of philosophy is, I'm glad it's going to a collector that I know versus just putting it on the table and having someone I don't know buy it. And then he, it's kind of one of those unspoken things where if I decide to sell it, I'll offer it back to him. Or if he really needs something back, he'll come to me and say, hey, you know what, those boots, could I buy them back? I need them for something, or borrow them and that. So that is all I have to share with you for this video. Hopefully I'm going to have some fun footage for an event that I'm going to be doing actually tomorrow. This video is being shot on Friday evening. Tomorrow I have an event if it doesn't get rained out. I was supposed to do it in the early summer and it got rained out. Right now it's kind of sketchy as if it's going to take place or not, but if it does, I'll have some cool footage from that and show you what I did there and how I participated. We'll just keep moving forward with stuff I have found here over the past few months and such. I've got some really awesome, incredible stuff to share. Plus, as I said, I want to do that field jacket display. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at that 16-minute mark. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Welcome new subscribers. Thanks everyone who's my old subscribers who continue to watch and so forth and so on. And until next week, this is Steve reminding all of you to keep them rolling.